Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Let's Just Say. Please welcome your host for the evening, Katie Hoffman.
Where turns this on? Can you hear me? Maybe. Hello, welcome to Let's Just Say, our evening of storytelling here at Go Comedy. Thank you all for coming out. We have a wonderful group of storytellers who have fantastic stories about Unlikely tonight. And we do this show every month, so please feel free to come back, and if you're interested in telling a story, let me know. And that's how we do it. So I kick things off, and my story of Unlikely is kind of a downer, so I'm sorry to start it off on a down. Thank you. So I think everyone has this. When you're growing up, you have a group of friends, and at some point in time, their lives kind of take off, and yours is wherever it is at that time. And for me, my group of friends started getting married, started buying houses, they started having babies, and that was awesome, and I was super happy for them, but I was like, I'm not there yet, so I need to find something for me. And so that's actually why I started doing improv. I do improv here at Go Comedy, and I found the community, and I found a wonderful group of friends who are amazing and supportive people, and I kind of found my thing. And I also found Mike. And Mike also does improv, and he's like the most wonderful person in the world, and I'm really gonna try not to cry. And so Mike and I got to know each other, and we started dating, and all of a sudden we started going on trips together and going to family things with each other's families, and Thanksgivings, and dinners, and like Christmas, and then we started going on longer trips farther away, and then all of a sudden we're moving in together, and we're combining our households, and my cats are now his cats. And then in January, he's like, we're gonna go on this date, and we went on a date, and he asked me to marry him, and I was over the moon. Thank you. And then got super excited because I have all this wedding planning stuff to do, and obviously never done any of that, and so we started looking at venues, and we found the perfect venue, and we didn't even look at any other ones. We were like, this is it. And then we started looking at things like, who is going to stand up with us, and what day are we going to have it, and we decided on day, and then on April 1st, we put a deposit down. We were so excited, and on April 2nd, he had a stroke, and everything kind of stopped. And he's only 40, so unlikely is the key word for a stroke victim. And then all of a sudden I'm in a hospital room, and I'm realizing I don't know what medications he's taking. I don't know what he's allergic to. I don't know anything. And I have to answer so many times who I am to this person, which is not family at this point. And I'm crying, and I'm shaking, and I don't know what's going on, and then I have to make this phone call to his mom to tell her that he's had a stroke, and that I don't know what's going on, and that was very difficult. But they came and stayed with me in the hospital while he's in surgery, and then I'm in this waiting room waiting to hear what's going on, and the doctor comes in, he's out of surgery, and if you'd like to come and see him, it's family only, and my wonderful future mother-in-law and my wonderful future brother-in-law were like, she's with us. And so they brought me back, and he's laying flat on this gurney outside of the operating room, and his head is like cradled in this purple pillow, which I don't know why I remember that. But he's, barely conscious, his eyes are open, but he can't say anything, and they're like, who's this? And pointed at his mom, and he says, Mom. And who's this? And he says, Rob, that's his brother. And I was like, okay, he knows these people, and like, who's this? And he's like, Katie, and I'm like, thank God, he knows who I am. And then they move him to the ICU, and it's just, if you've ever sat in an ICU and you watch these nurses come in, and you're like, thank you for for caring for this person that you don't know, and for the person who's asleep in this very uncomfortable recliner you also don't know, who doesn't know what's going to happen and what the future holds. And it was put a lot of perspective on what is important in life, is watching someone you love and having to go through all of that and understand that life's really unpredictable and very hard. But then fast forward 3 weeks and he's in inpatient rehab, and he's walking and he's talking and he's laughing and he's driving the therapist nuts because he's very smiley and very young, and they're all dealing with these people who they're not going to walk again, but they're trying. And he's this jovial, youthful, smiley guy. And then fast forward to today, when he had his second vision test and he passed, and now he gets to drive again. So anyway, don't take anything for granted. And that's my story, unlikely. Thank you. I tried really hard not to cry, and I got very close, but we're good. But my story was very, can be a little bit depressing. You're going to hear all kinds of different stories tonight, but let's kick things off with Kyle Butella.
Is everyone enjoying your allergies so far? My eyes have been killing me this year, and it's not about my eyes, my story, but it's kind of relate back to it. So my story starts about 2 years ago, and I work in a pretty labor-intensive job. I work in steel fabrication, so I'm literally lifting steel all the time. And obviously, I was at an age 2 years ago, so 24. I didn't realize my body starts degrading over time, and I still thought I was invincible. And so I just lift things in the stupidest fashions, and I eventually, 2 years ago in July, pulled my back, which sucked. And so I'm recovering from my back being pulled. It eventually gets better because I start actually taking care of myself, but then I realize everything is still kind of hurting all in my back, and nothing's getting better. The muscles I could tell were better, but nothing else was getting better. And so, like a smart, indestructible 24-year-old, I did nothing about the problem and just wanted to see what was going to happen. And it just got worse. My back would start to hurt, my hands and arms would go numb, part of my face would start to go numb. I was just fatigued all the time and have to wake up an hour early just to get through my day. And so I eventually, very smartly, go to the doctor, and they do their quick run-of-the-mill, I give them blood, I pee in a cup, and they give me muscle relaxers, because that's how they wanted to get me out of there. And the muscle relaxers work, they help, but they would make me exhausted still. They would help with the pain, and the numbness would still be there. So I get another type of muscle relaxer, because that one didn't work, and that one just puts me out. Then the third one didn't do anything. And so I eventually say, hey, is there someone more qualified than you? I didn't say that, but a specialist or something. So I go to a sports doctor to see if there's something wrong with my spine, maybe. And so I go there, great. I spend more money, great. It's the first time I ever had to get stripped down completely and put on one of the fun open in the back clothes, because they just went through my whole body to check if all my responses were working, cool. I peed in the cup, cool. And they still couldn't find anything wrong, so they sent me to go get an MRI. And I've never got an MRI before, so I don't know what to do. I don't know how to take care of myself. And so I just I remember asking them, so how do I go about doing that? And they say, well, you gotta find a place and get an MRI. And part of me was just, I fought the urge to do it, and I just wanted to say, could you do it for me? Like they were my mother. And so I eventually get an MRI. And it was kind of terrifying and stupid expensive, so that's cool. And I was getting an MRI for my head and my cervical spine. And an MRI, if you've never gotten one, is the most low intensity, high risk thing you can ever do or switch, because it's just laying there, because they put you in it and it's don't move. But if you move, nothing really happens, they just gotta do it again. But it's still terrifying, because the whole time you're acting like there's a gun to your head. And you get to listen to music too. So I'm laying there, and the guy was like, well, we're just gonna I put some music on that I think you'll like. So I'm laying in this MRI, trying not to scratch every single itch. Spin doctors are playing in my headset because I guess I look like the guy who likes spin doctors. And after about 30 minutes of holding still, I got a cool picture of my brain, which is actually kind of cool to have, and my spine, and no answers. They thought that there was possibly maybe a hole in my spine and the cervical juices were leaking, and that's terrifying, but thank God nothing was leaking in my brain. But still nothing got better. And then I started thinking, well, my mother does have lupus, and all the stuff I'm feeling is the symptoms of lupus. And so I start looking into it, and I'm not one of those people who are going like the WebMD to like freak myself out and work myself into a panic. I just use all of the information of like House from when I was watching that growing up and horror stories to build that up in my head. So like the first thing I'm thinking is like, well, I'm gonna die, cool. And so I start like looking into lupus, looking into all of it, and it turns out that it's more common in women, and even to transfer be passed down from a mother to a son is a 2% chance. And that's too big of a number for me, and I believed it. So I'm just like freaking myself out, I'm crying at night, just like, this sucks, I just got lupus, where's my life now? And so I go to a rheumatologist, because they're the ones who deal with people with that and all the nerve pain. And so, you know, I go there, I spend even more money, I pee into even more cups, I get a shot in my butt, and I think nothing is still working. The pain will go away with pain relievers, but nothing else is working. And so I eventually decide to look up and find, because I think it has to be something with my back, so I find a chiropractor. And the chiropractor I found, or a spine wizard as I now call him, because it's a small little, one doctor owns it, chiropractor. I go in, they take an x-ray, they look at it, okay. Over the course of like a week, goes through my back. I learn what muscle scraping is, and if you're trying to figure out what muscle scraping is, yes, it's exactly what you think it is. They jelly your back up and just putty knife your muscles in your back because it pushes all the blood out of them so they can rest. Going down my spine, in between the processes of the spine, there's a tiny little tendon that connects them, and he finds one in the middle of my back that's inflamed. Leans my back down and starts rubbing at it, and it feels like a marble in my back going up and down, and I hear the knocking of it against my spine, and it hurts like a bitch. Then they do that, and things start feeling better. The numbness is going away. Then the next one is, the next day I go in, they lay me at a table, they put my back, legs down, and just one solid push in that spot, and it sounds like a twig, like that satisfying twig snap sound comes out of my back. Everything is like lightening up my whole body, down my body, and then everything was fine. Everything got better. There was no hole in my spine. There was no lupus. There was no need for a something $100 MRI. So, for me, I've come to terms and I really have to realize that, and if you're someone like me and you do this, when things go wrong, any little thing, from the biggest problem to the smallest little thing, it's highly unlikely that it's the worst case scenario. Because we're right back around to my eyes. This is the first time my eyes have ever had an allergic reaction. I've never had eye allergies before. I woke up and they're pretty and dry. And the first thing I think is, oh shit, I'm gonna lose my eyes. And halfway through my panic text to my dad telling him I'm gonna lose my eyes and this is the end of my life, I stop and remember, it's probably something new and I should figure it out first. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you, Kyle. I don't know if you made me curious about chiropractors or terrified. Well, anyway, both. Our next storyteller is a seasoned improviser and an actor, I believe. He's done some acting, and he's in a sketch writing program here at Go. Please welcome Dan Cantor.
Good evening.
as someone who's a little older than the previous two storytellers, I want to assure you we're not going into what hurts or someone who's about to die. Even though at one point I thought I might. So, I want to take you back quite a few years, and it was about this time of year, middle of June, and normally June in Detroit is warm and we see the sunshine. And in this case, I'm 12 years old and I'm standing out in right field. I'm on the Northwest Detroit Little League White Sox. So, this is the first summer I ever played organized baseball. I went to a private school that didn't even have a gymnasium, so while we played softball out in the fields, it really was pickup games and very, very casual. So here, this is a bit more formal, real deal baseball. In anticipation of having to perform on a field in a uniform, I wanted to know going in that I was going to have the best chance possible to succeed. And I went to a private school. I'm a bit of a geek. I wore glasses, horn-rimmed glasses. As much as I thought of myself as athletic, certain actual quantifiables would show otherwise. So before I had gotten drafted by the White Sox, the coach saw something in me like somebody has to pick him. So I went and picked up a book on how to be a good batter. And the book was written by a fellow who was at that time, he was a legend already, but still playing with the Boston Red Sox, Carl Yastrzemski. Now for those younger folks, this was a guy who had been a batting champion and just the biggest star of his team for a while. He was Mike Trout, a Ryan Howard of his day. Although he was a left-handed hitter, I'm a right-handed hitter. I wasn't going to let that get in the way of success. So, I studied that book and saw him standing in my bedroom, squaring up. I really got a sense of what to do. I'm a good studier. So by the time we actually started playing, I became the best hitter on the team. But one of the other aspects of my play was questionable. If there'd been something like a designated hitter for the 12-year-old Little League White Sox, gosh, that would have been perfect. I mean, I really did bat something like .525, and it was terrific, but in the field, not so great. I looked good. So here we are, it's a June afternoon, and our team is playing the Phillies. Now the Phillies were the hottest team in our division. They had all the good guys. Their coach picked real players during the draft. And they were undefeated. And I'm out in right field, and for somehow, I think I contributed to this score. Our team only trailed by 1 run in this sixth inning in the game. And at that point, we only played something like 7 innings. So the sun's coming down, I'm standing in my white flannel, Little League uniform. The sun's coming down and I was learning about physics. I was learning that white reflects heat and dark colors, particularly black, attracts heat. Because our uniform had a big oval on the back advertising a funeral home. And you could just feel under the oval heat. I'm standing in right field. Right field is legendary for a place to put people who really can't field, because most people are right-handed and they hit to center and left field. The coach was no dummy. So, our team is playing well, better than perhaps we've ever played. I'm hitting like a demon that day. We're holding our own. We're not in the lead, but we're holding our own. There's the crack of the bat. And I see the ball coming towards me. The Phillies have runners on every base. And all I can think as I hear my father's, go get him, Dan! And I'm thinking, don't make a fool of yourself. Do not let that ball at least get past you too far. And the ball is coming towards me. And the ball is coming towards me. And I'm looking at it, and people are yelling, and it's like, okay, usually you run towards where you think you might be able to catch the ball. And I'm frozen because the ball is still in the air, and I don't know what to do. And the runners, I see the runners with their lead, I can sort of see, and I'm looking, and I raise my left hand with my big softball glove that is too big, and I catch the ball. I literally went like that. And what would have been a home run had I run to where I thought the ball really was going to land, it hit, and I kept it. And the inning was over, no one scored, and it's funny, we're going to jump forward a little bit. I mean, certainly I was cheered, I felt amazing, I felt like I still don't know what the hell I'm doing in right field. And in fact, not that game, but the next one, Coach Bruce, in fact, told me that we're going to move you from right field. And he told me that after I was getting a single, fielding a single, and was to throw it home, and it went behind the third baseman. So, anyway, my father had watched that game. My father's now 91. I heard my father talking to a friend of his, and he said, I was watching some baseball on TV, and I couldn't help but think of that afternoon when my son made a hell of a catch. So I'm going to wrap this up acknowledging that sports can give life lessons, because when stuff happens and you wish you were somewhere else, or you regret that you didn't go with a certain thing, sometimes you're where you're supposed to be right now, right here, and open to what comes your way. Thanks.
next storyteller this evening is no stranger to this show. She has done it a few times, I think. And she even graces the presence of our Facebook cover post picture. Please welcome Yevgenia Yasmin.
I was 21 years old when my great-grandmother passed away. In Jewish custom, you bury quickly. She passed away in Michigan. I was in New Hampshire. I didn't make it home in time for her funeral. She died on Thursday, October 31st, Halloween 2002. Like, some dates just like really stick in your head. And that Friday, I wanted to say the mourner's Kaddish. And where I was, like, I hadn't been to synagogue in forever, right? And I was an outdoor education instructor living in New Hampshire in a forest. I think the population of like Hancock and probably Peterborough, like Jewish population, was me. So I started trying to find a synagogue. And Google in 2002 was 4 years old. And I found a synagogue in Keene. Keene was like a 40-minute drive. And you know, New Hampshire, it's like all windy roads and nothing straight. And I get to this building and walk into the sanctuary. It's like nothing I've ever seen before. It's a circle, right? Like normally it's like this, and you're like, there's a Torah, there's a thing. It's not like that. It's like a circle, and everything is wood, and very New Hampshire. The rabbi's playing guitar, there's little kids dancing in the middle. And I lean over to this elderly gentleman that like looks like a normal Jewish person. And I say to him, I'm like, what's Reconstructionist Judaism? You know, like I've never heard of it. And anyways, there's a Reconstructionist Jewish synagogue, which was very lovely. And I remember standing up the first time to say the mourner's Kaddish for my great-grandmother that night. And let me tell you, like, you know, you hear that prayer at every single service. You know, you hear it all the time. There's parts you say even when you're not mourning. And standing up to say that prayer for my great-grandmother, I mean, like, there was a lot more crying than any, like, other sounds coming out of my mouth, but it was just, like, so deeply moving. I am saying words that have been said by Jewish people for, you know, forever, to mourn our loss. And anyways, that was my time in New Hampshire, and then I moved back to Michigan, spent a year here doing law stuff, not fun. Then I thought, okay, let's go to law school. Went to Minnesota, and I was, like, fast forward 8 years, right? I fly back to Michigan for a weekend, and my mom says, do you want to go to the cemetery with me in the morning? And I never really been to a cemetery, so I'm like, okay, yeah. Like, I'd never been to my great-grandmother's gravesite. So my mother and I, we went to the cemetery. It is so far. And I'll tell you how I can measure how far the cemetery is by the number of cemeteries you pass before you get to it. Like, the Jewish cemetery is past at least 100, probably non-Jewish cemeteries. I am completely stereotyping because, you know, we went past them. Anyways, so my mother was, she showed me these rituals I didn't even know, like before you leave, you have to wash your hands, so she brought water. And my mother is just like a different person when we were there. Like she's normally, my mother's like one of the strongest people I know, but like she was clearly very close to her grandmother. And it was very moving. I flew back to Minnesota. A week later, I talked to my mom, we do this talking thing every day, and she sounds different. Something sounds off. And I'm like, Mom, what's up? Going through one of your shoe boxes. This is my mini hoarding that I still do. And this was the one with all your bar mitzvah, or just bat mitzvah cards. I did not get bar mitzvah cards. My bat mitzvah cards. She found, my mom's like, I found the envelope from your great-grandmother. You didn't open it. I was like, what? And yeah, that's how she was kind of. So when I saw my mother, she gives me this envelope, and it's literally an envelope. It's not like even a greeting card. It's this envelope with my great grandmother's writing on it, and it says from her to me. And I open it, and it was there's a $50 bill with a little face of Grant, not the big face. And well, of course, I took the $50 to Tiffany's, and I had a plan. Okay, like I really like the silver, because I know like $50 doesn't go far at Tiffany's, but I like this like silver necklace. It was a dove. That was the plan. But I walk into Tiffany's in Bloomington, Minnesota, I think. I'm probably getting my cities wrong at this point. And I see this beautiful, tiny gold Jewish star. Like, it wasn't even in the catalog. I guess that's not what you advertise when you're at Tiffany's. But like, it was like, there was this moment of like doves. Okay, I know what I'm supposed to do. So this Jewish star that like I wear a lot is incredibly special to me. And for me, when we have these kind of like unlikely, statistically impossible chains of events that come together, that I am certain we are never alone. We are loved, and everything is going to be okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm gonna go through all of my shoe boxes when I go, because I have $50. Our next storyteller has also graced this show once before, and I am very excited to hear his story. Give me a little preview beforehand, but please welcome to the stage, Jeff Mans.
It was the summer after my junior year of high school. My dad had just spent at least a year fixing up our unfinished basement and making it beautiful. So I had moved all my records down there. I was a record fanatic. I had my stereo down there, my keyboard, my drum set, everything. And it was great. I spent like every night down there. And the weekend after, my friend invited me to her parents' cabin in northern Wisconsin. So I thought, okay, I'll leave, the little shrine of music away and head up to the cabin. To give you an idea of how remote it was, my dad had to call me up there. So he had to call the bar that was on the corner, and an employee from the bar had to walk about half a mile to our cabin, knock on the door and say, here's a message for Jeff. I then had to walk back and use the payphone on the corner to call my dad, who said, when they drop you off, don't have them drop you off at home, take them, or have them drop you off at your grandmother's house in Chicago because the house is flooded. So it turns out there was a torrential downpour in the suburbs of Chicago. This was on national news. Our 9-block area got hit pretty hard. The rain had stopped. My parents had gone out to the street and were just looking around, looked down the road and saw water just heading very quickly towards them. We lived about 6 blocks away from a creek, which was also right by a sewage plant. So they ran inside, threw everything they could onto the second floor, eventually had to be led out the second-story window on a boat and paddled away to dry land a few blocks away. So about a week later, we were able to get back into the house. And I walked in the side door, and they got about a foot or so on the first floor, is what I was told. So I walked in the side door, and there were the stairs to go down the basement, but it looked like there was a big plank of wood over the stairs. And I thought, well, that's strange. Are they just blocking it off because we can't get to the basement anymore? And then I looked at my mom, and she broke down in tears and just embraced me. And I looked again and realized it wasn't wood, it was still water that was just dark brown. That was filled our basement. And she was, through her tears, saying, if it takes me forever, I am going to replace every single one of your records. And I thought, that is such a wonderful sentiment. Probably won't do it. And that's okay, because there's a lot of bigger things that we have to deal with here than like a few hundred records that I bought. But it was such an awesome, sweet thing for her to say. Jump ahead about 5 years, I'm working at my college radio station, and this is the dawn of alternative music, I suppose, like the early 90s, and they said, we're going to get rid of every record that is more than 2 years old. So there was a wall of about 20, like floor to ceiling, about 20 feet long, filled with records. They said, Jeff, if you want them, you can just have them. I spent about a month bringing, I think I counted at one time, a few thousand records home. And it was amazing. My friends and I would get together and listen to records every night, just like discovering, like, God, like Art Garfunkel had 12 albums, who knew? Like, this is amazing. Jump ahead a few more years, and I had to move. I moved to Michigan at that point. Couldn't bring thousands of records with me because they were way too heavy. So I ended up having to sell a lot of them at a garage sale, which actually helped with the money to move. We're going to jump ahead. We're just going to keep jumping ahead a few years at a time here. About a year later, I'm at a job here in Michigan. I'm telling this story, and my coworker says, oh, you like records? I got a few hundred you can have. And I just thought, what? He's like, I don't want them. Who wants records anymore? The next day, there's a stack of like 200 or 300 records on my desk. And I was like, cool, records are coming back into my life. Listen to those records. And there was all stuff I loved, too. A few more years later, I lost my house. Had to get rid of all these records again. Sold them to like a guy for maybe 20 bucks. He was so ecstatic, and I was happy just not to have to move them. And finally, a couple years ago, I'm in Goodwill. Walk up, they wheel out the cart, and it has, again, records. And I just start looking, and I'm like, oh, this is good stuff. Usually it's like Christmas music from the 1940s, which I can enjoy, but I've seen it a lot. And this is more like stuff from the 60s through the 80s. And a lady who works there walks up, and she says, oh, you like records? You want them all? And I looked at her, and she's like, you could just take every record in the store, 20 bucks. That sound good for you? I was like, yeah. She's like, here, just give me 20 bucks, you can have them all. We're tired of selling records. But okay, yet again, carrying boxes and boxes of records to my car and enjoying the hell out of it. And as I'm thinking about these perhaps innocuous events throughout my life, and nothing really struck me as unique about them when they were happening. And the logical side of me, though, when I'm thinking about everything all together, is thinking, although it is not likely anything to do with my mom willing this to happen, or at this point operating from beyond the grave to put more records into my life, the much bigger, let's say, flaky part of me can think about all these events and think back to that moment when my mom hugged me. And I can look at the box of records that's on my living room floor right now and think, wow, somehow she's still doing it. Thanks, Mom.
Also, I really want to know where this Goodwill is because I'd like to take 20 bucks and buy all the records. Our next storyteller is an improv student here at Go Comedy, and I believe this is his first time telling a story, but long-time fan, first-time listener kind of thing?
Sure.
Yeah. Please help me welcome Tyler Berquist.
Hey everybody. So I had a fucking wild week last week. Like, it was like, okay, so, alright, a little backstory. I throw a music festival in Muskegon called Yardapalooza. You probably haven't heard of it. It's really not a big deal. I'm not tooting my own horn. I throw this music festival, and this year was supposed to be the 5th year of it. And every year, it's very kind of punk rock and feel. Like we just do it in my parents' yard. I just know a guy who has sound equipment, so I'm like, come on over, bring your stuff. And I know a bunch of people in the band, so I'm like, come on, play a set. So it's very punk rock, do it yourself. Very, just do it. And last year, year 4, somehow we had about 1,000 people that show up to my parents' yard, which sits on 1 acre of property. And the house is relatively big. My dad built it, so it's not a lot of space. So we got 1,000 people here for my event. I was, wow, this is crazy unlikely. I didn't expect it to go there. But this year, I got contacted by the city of Dalton, which is where I throw the event. And they said, hey man, we know you're throwing this huge event. You gotta do something. You can't just have thousands of people in your, it's a liability. Like you gotta like, come talk to us, get your permits or something. And I was like, all right, so we'll do that. So I spent this entire year figuring out how to turn Yardapalooza from this weird punk rock, do-it-yourself, throw a bunch of music acts together and throw a show kind of thing. And how do I make that legitimate? So I spent a lot of time researching on how to get these liquor licenses so we could serve beer there, and turns out you can't really get one unless you're a nonprofit, so I'm like, how about a local nonprofit to partner with them? So we get to a deadline. I'm trying to pull everything together, and we're about 2 days away from this deadline. We need to get the application in to licensing and regulatory affairs. It's LARA, it's a agency in Michigan that issues these temporary liquor licenses. And in order for me to do that, I needed to get the permits to the nonprofit because that was their policy. And then in order to do that, I needed to get an insurance policy that covers the event, naming the city of Dalton specifically. So we got everything in order. We're 2 days away from it. All I'm waiting on is the call from the insurance. Get the call from the insurance, get the call from the city, call the thing, pop it in. I get a call. My dad says, hey, yeah, I just got a call from the insurance. They denied us coverage. I was like, shit. Well, I guess I gotta cancel. I don't have the permits. They're gonna come shut us down. They know we're existing. They know we exist. We can't do it. And so I canceled it. I deleted the Facebook event. I made a huge announcement to everyone. I said, I'm sorry, this year we're not doing it. And here's the real bummer of it. This year I was gonna propose to my girlfriend. And I had it all planned out. Her family was gonna come out, and her sister was gonna be there, and all my family was gonna be there, and everyone was gonna be there to celebrate this super cool engagement at this super cool backyard festival that I, the super cool boyfriend, went to go. And so I'm down. I'm real down. And but I still had all this time off of work because I was planning on going to Muskegon to do this festival, so got a week off of work, so I leave work on Tuesday. I get a message from a gentleman at Dalton Township, a gentleman I know. I've had a relationship with him, so I've talked to him, and he said, call him. I said, okay. I called him, got it on my Bluetooth in the car, I'm driving, and he says, dude, I don't know what the hell happened this year, but we keep trying to get events to come to Dalton, and nothing is popping off. The only thing that happens is Yardapalooza. I was like, what? He was like, yeah. We need you to do Yardapalooza, please. I was like, what? He's like, yeah. We'll give you the permits. You're taking on the insurance liability yourself. Like, whatever. You paid your $50. Here's your permits. I know a guy down at the sheriff's office. It'll be fine. Serve your booze. I was like, okay, you probably shouldn't be telling me this. But like, I'll accept it because I'm on a personal cell phone call. I'm not, this is an official city line. So I was like, well, shit. I guess I got 4 days to pull a festival out of my ass. And I left on Wednesday morning, drove out there, I called all the bands, lost 3 of them, because 3 of them, they got booked, we were canceled for a whole week. Kept most of the original lineup, booked another band, got everything set up, and we got to have Yardapalooza 6. And everything started off real slow and kind of progressed, and people started coming, and And like, I thought because we canceled, we would lose everybody. And granted, we lost quite a few people, but we still had about 600 people that showed up to this event. And as the day gets farther and farther in, and I'm seeing more people kind of flood in, I'm like, this wasn't gonna happen. I was resigned to this. I was not gonna do Yardapalooza this year, and I was gonna even think about maybe not doing it in the future, because I don't know what, we cancel a year, we're probably gonna lose a lot of viewership and a lot of patronage. And so to see it all come together was amazing. I went over to talk to my friend Marshall, and he's in the band Flexidecimal, and they were kind of headlining this year, and I said, hey, you still in to play a song for me and Emily? He said, yeah, fuck yeah, dude, I'm super into it. So we get there, and Emily's favorite band is Flexidecimal, so she's down there, down front row, and her dad shows up, and her dad doesn't come to shit like this. Of course not, we're a bunch of weed-smoking hippies out there listening to music in a backyard. Like, why would he come? He's like a professional dad. Like, he's got a real job and stuff. So he comes out, she turns around, she sees him, she's like, what? She looks at me, she knows what's going on. And I say, I love you, I give her a kiss, and I run up on stage. This was after the second song. I got up and I said, I couldn't think of a better place to do this than surrounded by all this love and everybody that I love, including my girlfriend. And I brought her up on stage, and my Aunt Stacia, she made this sign that said, Emily, marry me. And so I brought her up stage, and I asked her to marry me, and she said yes. Don't get tense on it. She definitely said yes, and we're engaged now, but I didn't expect this week to happen. I thought it was going to be nothing. I thought I was just going to have to find a better way to propose. But guess what? Yardapalooza 5 fell right into my lap, and I got that opportunity to make an amazing memory. So that was my story. That was my wild week last week. Thanks, everyone. Y'all have a good night.
Oh my gosh, congratulations. Yardapalooza. I have to check that out next year. Our last storyteller tonight is a fantastic human being. He's very, very funny. He's a resident co-member here, so you can see him on a regular basis. He's also a stage manager, a very talented man. Please welcome to the stage, Pete Jacobs.
Hello.
Hello.
Okay. So I was going to tell the story, the unlikely story of how my wife and I started dating. And then yesterday, I was like, Sue, would it be cool if you tell that story? And she was like, no. So I had to come up with something different. So I'm going to tell you guys the story of why I hate that I like the band Casey and JoJo. So here's what happened. When I was a sophomore in high school, I went to an all-guys high school, so meeting the ladies was difficult. So I did what any dude would do and got involved in theater. And so I met some friends, and my friend Layla was like, also real quick, I'm going to tell you a story about my friend Kat, who I didn't give her the option, if I could tell this story. She was in Seattle and she can't beat me up. So my friend Layla was like, oh hey, homecoming at Mercy is coming up, and I have a friend out of options. Will you go to a dance with me? And I was like, okay. And then she scheduled a meet and greet for the two of us in my parents' basement. People all got together, and I met Kat. And then we went to this dance, and then we became friends. And then I went with her, I think, to another dance that year, maybe the next year. I don't remember. It was a while ago. Anyways, so for like the month or two leading up to the second dance, she was being real weird. Fun side note, I hate talking on the phone. If someone calls me on the phone, I usually answer with, "Hi, what's wrong?" or "Hi, what's up?" You know, get to the fucking point so I can hang this up, because I hate talking on the phone. I don't know what to do with my hands. So she kind of beat that out of me, and would like, we'd talk on the phone every night, and I'd be like, "Hey, what's going on?" She's, "Nothing, I want to talk." And I'd be like, "About what?" She's like, "Shut up, idiot, talk to me." Much better about it now. Anyways, so she's being weird, and I'm like, what the hell, what's going on? And she's like, "Nothing. You're still going to the dance, right?" And I was like, "That's a weird question." And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And so we go to the dance, and we had a lovely time. And then we went, her house when we were in high school was about 10 houses down from mine, which was weird because we didn't know each other, and then we found out we basically lived in the same neighborhood. Another side note, she was adopted by two of the most horrible people in the world. They're both Scottish, and they're both too technically stupid to ever stumble upon this story on the internet, so I can trash talk that shit. When she got married, they told her that she screwed up because she should have married me, because I was the only person that she ever brought home that they liked. They're not good people. Anyways, so we're in their driveway. We go to her house after the dance, and we're sitting in her driveway, and she keeps like shifting in her seat and being weird. And her mom came out and yelled at us for sitting in the driveway like 3 or 4 times. And she won't turn the car off, and she's acting super weird. And I'm like, "What, lady? What the hell? I want to go home." And I think at one point she even like locked the doors as like a point of like, "You're not leaving." So we sat in her car with the engine running in the driveway for over an hour. And as the time progressed, she'd get more and more angry at her radio. And I was like, "This is a strange behavior for a person." And then she was like, "Just wait, okay? This song is gonna come on the radio, I really want you to hear it." And I'm like, "Okay." So like an hour goes by, and we're still sitting in this car, and I'm still in a very uncomfortable rented tuxedo that I don't want to be in anymore. And like an hour and a half goes by, and now she's swearing at the radio. And she finally goes, "Fuck it, I'll go home." And I was like, what the hell? So it turns out that she was desperately trying to find, I brought sound effects, this song. Shitty ass song. We waited in a car for over an hour and a half for Casey and JoJo to come on the radio so that she could tell me that she liked me and wanted us to go on dates, boyfriend and girlfriend. So she made me sit in a car for an hour and a half, listening to shitty radio, waiting for a song I don't like to come on the radio to tell me that she had feelings for me. So she made me go home and then immediately call her and then go on the internet and desperately try to find the song. And then I listened to it, and then because I'm dumb, I was like, "Okay. Cool song, I guess. I don't know." And then we went through all that, and then she still had to spell out that she had feelings for me. And then we did it for a little while, and then I screwed that up, because teenager. And then we have been, she is my oldest and best friend. I was gonna be her maid of honor at her wedding, but then they shotgunned that shit because she got pregnant. And I am the unofficial godfather to all 3 of her kids, and I was there for her on the phone when she got divorced, and she was there on the phone for me when my mom passed away. And every time here at the theater, we just use Pandora, and I usually would play like an NSYNC playlist or a 90s playlist. Every time this stupid fucking song comes on Pandora, I have to call her and tell her that it made me think of her, and ha ha ha, isn't that funny? So I am forever and unlikely hooked to the fucking band Casey and JoJo because my stupid friend wanted her to tell me how she felt. So there you go.
Thank you, Pete. Please give it up for all of our storytellers this evening. Amazing. Again, we do Let's Just Sing every month, the third Thursday of the month. It's a wonderful time. If you're interested in telling a story for one of these, please let us know. Let me know or contact us on the Facebook page. Let's Just Say, follow us on Facebook. Next month's theme is called Communication Breakdown, so that's going to be interesting. And if you have a story for that, please let us know. Thank you so much for coming out. There is a show at 9 p.m.? I don't know. Yes. So if you're interested in staying, check with the box office. That's a great sketch show. If you're not staying, have a great night. Thank you so much.